Hello, welcome.
Hi,
He reads,
she writes,
and we love stories.
Welcome to the Reader and Writer podcast. I'm Mike,
I'm Anna.
and this week we are here to talk with you guys about X-Men 97.
X-Men 97. First of all, let's just start with this is our non-spoiler section. Lots of people have watched it already, but in case you haven't, this is our non-spoiler section.
We will give a warning before we start giving spoilers away.
Nice big warning.
We'll
now
say
it's
it, and
non-spoilers.
I'll put something on screen, maybe
Yes.
up here, or maybe just across both of our faces.
So fear not. We'll have a timestamp down below if you want to. All right. So, non-spoiler. Did you like it?
I loved it.
Yes, you did.
I was a kid in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s, as you may be able to guess from the state of my beard these days.
It's so cute.
But I grew up watching the original run of X-Men.
I did not.
And yeah.
I did not.
I loved that show when I was a kid. Gambit was my favorite mutant. Like probably every little boy in the 90s loved Wolverine. Thought he was amazing.
His superpower is nice.
So I have not a lot of specific memories. I didn't rewatch the show when I became an adult, but I have a lot of nostalgic memories and a lot of memories of moments from the show,
feelings,
and of favorite storylines, even if I couldn't recite whole episodes to you.
And that's okay.
But there were a lot of things about that show that I really loved as a kid. And so when I heard they were going to bring it back, I was excited, because when you have one of those things that you loved as a kid and they're bringing it back, it's always, I guess sometimes it can be I'm not sure about this, depending on who's making it. But Disney has a pretty good track record especially with their animated stuff.
Yes, that I can say. Yeah.
I watched Clone Wars and Rebels and all the Star Wars stuff over the last year, and so I had a lot of trust going into it. I know Lucasfilm is a different branch and whatever, but I had a good amount of trust, and I was not disappointed.
That's really
good. I was very pleased with what we saw.
I did not watch the original X-Men series, animated series. I knew about it, but I'm a little bit younger, so I didn't grow up watching it. Not that much younger, but I knew the X-Men. I've read some comics and stuff, so I also really, really liked it. So that's kind of maybe helpful for people, that someone who did watch the original, someone who didn't watch the original, we both really enjoyed it. We both really liked it. Did it meet your expectations? You kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't have a lot of I don't remember every story beat from the original run. So there was a bit of, just wanting to see the characters again, and wanting to spend time with them. And I think they nailed that aspect of the show sure.
They really got the characters.
Without giving any spoilers, the story was good. It was very good. I enjoyed the story.
Good story.
We'll get into more details in the spoiler section.
Yeah, we'll work through each of the episodes.
But I was especially pleased with how they handled the characters. They felt like the characters that I knew, that I grew up with, and it was very much like getting to see old friends again after a long time.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. It blew away my expectations. My expectations coming in were oh yeah, that was a 90s show. I know some of the comics. And then I watch it, and I'm just this is the best of both worlds. It's just cherry picking, not even cherry picking, but just gleaning comic lore and general knowledge, and then apparently from launching pad of the original series, and just bringing it together into this beautiful, wonderful alchemy of strange things, and it makes this beautiful potion that we loved. So that was really good. And okay, let's dive into spoilers. We're going to work through, I think we would like to kind of walk through each episode, do a quick summary of each episode, and then kind of break down likes and we'll call them misses. I don't like saying dislikes, because because I don't want to get very negative. Like
That's not really
that's not what we're about. That's not what we're about. But maybe misses like
that didn't quite land for
that
me.
really land like not quite
Yeah.
there. Like yeah. So we're gonna walk through. So let's start with this is spoiler section. Spoilers.
Big
Spoilers.
I don't know why we're waving
Blinky
our
lights.
hands.
This is me blinking blinky lights. My show choir days are coming back.
Mm.
All right. Yeah. So let's work through episode 1, which was called To Me, My X-Men.
To Me, My X-Men.
It was so okay. So I didn't know the theme song because I didn't watch the original. So when that first episode hit, I was just like, what is with 90 shows and having just bangers for their theme songs? Like, find me a 90s show that has a lame theme song. You can't do it. You can't. They were all like stellar. I think up until like Phil Collins and Tarzan, all of animation had really good music.
It's true.
And then something happened. And I don't really know what happened after that.
Yeah. The X-Men animated series is just one of those iconic theme songs.
Yeah, and I'm so glad they kept it.
Yes.
And it stayed its very synth 90s self and just was rocking. And, you know, the title cards and all that, just for me, just launching and just like, okay, here we go. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And then just you launch right into where are we now? And it's the current X-Men team rescuing a new character. And that's great. And it introduces the bad guys. We have the
kind of the first tier of villains for the season.
The first layer of villains. Yeah, it's the Friends of Humanity, I think they're called?
I think so.
Just the bad humans.
The Friends of Humanity.
Friends of Humanity. So, you know, they don't like mutants and they're typically just working for somebody who can give them big guns to go fight mutants because they're racist. Basically. That's kind of the deal.
And that's kind of always been a theme of X-Men is like dealing with racism in a way that's a little bit less charged because it's in comics.
A little bit, but I mean that's kind of comics. If you think back historically, comics were written by a lot of a bunch of Jewish guys, like originally. So it makes sense that a lot of these themes of, you know, of marginalized people and
it's a way for them to express things that they had to deal with.
Yeah. Anyways, so it was awesome, and I've never seen Cyclops. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of Cyclops, just in general, and I think because of the comics that I've read of him, he's not a great person. And then the movies, the live action X-Men that I've seen of him, I haven't seen all of them, but the ones that I have seen, I'm just like, I'm a little disappointed. So when he comes in and is like using his optic beams to push himself around the room, I was just like, okay, you're raising the bar. I like expectations already blown away with a character that's not my favorite. Like Wolverine can just do Wolverine things and it's fine and he's great. But like just the fact that Cyclops came out of the gate and made me like him, I was like, okay, show. Okay, let's, okay.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment.
That was super cool. And I guess it's from a video game where he did that. And it wasn't in the original series. Anyways, I know too much. I've been deep diving. Anyways, so it was cool.
I did play some X-Men video games, but it was usually either in an arcade for someone's birthday or with the game that I chose to rent from Blockbuster that week. You know, back on Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo.
You could rent games from Blockbuster?
Yeah, that was a big thing. Get in the comments and tell us if you ever rented a video game
I didn't.
from Blockbuster.
Anyway.
If you ever had a Blockbuster card.
Yes, if you had a Blockbuster card. Hi, we see you. If you don't know what Blockbuster is, we see you too, and you're really sweet and we love you. So yeah, that first episode is to just Cyclops saying To Me, My X-Men, just like, it gave me chills. Like, it was so good. I was like, no, that's what Professor X says. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because, you know, I did my research going in like, okay, so Professor X isn't there. this is kind of next gen. So what's it going to look like? That's kind of my diagnosis, my idea coming in. So
Yeah.
it was really, really great just out of the gate. See the team
Yeah,
doing awesome team stuff, because that's why we watch X-Men. That's why we read it. That's why we care about the X-Men, because we want to see the team doing the team stuff. And we're going to get into that more with other episodes that were less team oriented. We'll get into the we'll get into
that when we
those
get there.
later.
Let's focus on the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, so they really hit the
yeah.
ground running. They introduced a really cool new character, Roberto.
Yeah.
And he's got some awesome powers
Sunspot.
that he's trying to cover up because he doesn't want his parents to feel. There's a lot of family tension there, which makes sense in the world. That's how
sense.
a lot of
That makes a lot of sense.
Younger mutants discovering their powers feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, they really hit the ground running. So yeah, some highlights for me: seeing Cyclops step into the leadership role and just own it and do really well, and see the whole team actually work together behind him.
Yeah.
That was always some of the tension, and I mean, not even just limited to the series, but tension, especially between Wolverine and Cyclops. You know,
I'm sorry, but it's like Wolverine just continually calling him Dad. Okay, Dad.
Just, but there's the love triangle with them and Jean,
and then Jean being like, "Cool it, dude." Like, it's great.
They're both very strong personalities. Don't necessarily get along all the time.
I think that's also what makes them fun, is that they're all pretty strong personalities having to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But seeing the way the team had united and was following him as their leader was really cool. And seeing all of their powers in action again. I think, honestly, one of the biggest highlights for me, too, was the theme song and the opening credits.
Everyone...
Because it was like, this is it. This is X-Men. This is what I grew up with. This is the show that I want to watch. And I was just so hyped the first time I watched it.
Yeah, the live action movies not using that theme song was a big miss, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they wanted to. Yeah, I understand they wanted to lean like into a different angle on it because they didn't want it to be too campy. Having a cartoon Wolverine in a yellow tracksuit or morph suit, I guess, yellow tights is one thing. Having like Hugh Jackman in yellow tights as Wolverine in 2001 or whatever year it was would have been a little campy for the era, for film at least.
For the era, which is so funny looking back, because so many early 2000s movie we watch and we're just like, they're so cringy because like, I don't know.
They're just like, we are dark.
We're so intense.
Embrace the darkness. Feel
like
the shadows.
Comics in the 90s with movies in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So yeah.
We get into, in that episode, we also but we have Sentinel Tech is there, and so we get Trask, Bolivar Trask, which makes us all realize like, oh, so the Sentinels and Bolivar Trask are not the bad guy. Like, that feels like a real, like, the Sentinels are like the big bad usually in X-Men, and I think in the original it kind of started up anyways.
I mean, the first episode is you meet Jubilee, and then she gets attacked by Sentinels. Like, the name is the Night of the Sentinels.
That's right. So it's awesome. To me, I was just like, oh my gosh, our stakes are so high if our goons are Sentinels. Like, okay.
Yeah, or at least have access to Sentinel weaponry.
Yeah, like really. So, yeah, and then Bolivar Trask is taken out very quickly and like arrested, taken out. And what else happens in that?
Yeah, so they meet with Gyrick
so that they can find Bolivar.
Yeah, and then he doesn't want to give him up, and then Jean Grey uses Cerebro to find him.
And then she has the vision. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so they find
our pregnant telepath, who we believe to be Jean.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
We're in the spoilers.
In the spoilers.
Don't watch it. Yeah, if you haven't watched the whole series, don't watch it.
We believe to be Jean is pregnant. Also, that was a big reveal.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yay. So she's pregnant. She's doing the Cerebro thing, which, first of all, if you're pregnant, Jean, you need to not be interrogating terrorists. Just I feel like that's an obvious.
Yeah.
It needs to be in the book.
Yeah.
And like what to expect in your expecting book. Please do not.
Don't engage in mutant activities if you're.
Do not engage in.
It's like one of those warning signs for a roller coaster.
Not advisable for pregnant people. So yeah, she does that, and then she gets this crazy vision where she's trying to keep her baby with her is what she's doing, and she's seeing all these different things which are all foreshadowing the events of the entire series, and we don't realize that until like the last episode, but which is really cool.
Yeah.
So she has that, and then
somebody.
and then they get an alarm that somebody has broken into the professor's office, right?
I don't remember if that was in this episode. So I know the other things they do. They confront the Sentinels. They find a master mold supercomputer, and they capture Trask. And then the kind of the climax of this episode is Cyclops and Jean announcing that they're going to leave the X-Men because they feel like the team is in a good state and can figure things out. And then they're interrupted by Magneto
showing up in the
with a copy of Professor X's will
testament,
saying that the X-Men are under his care, which was a big cliffhanger for the first episode and a big what is going on here moment.
I was so excited. I was so excited.
I will say, I have to say, one of my disappointments is Magneto's costume at the start of the series.
What was he wearing?
He was wearing like the black one with the big M on his chest and the bare shoulders. It just
the bare shoulders.
It felt
very 90s.
Yeah, it was very 90s.
Almost like that black Superman costume. Have you seen the black Superman costume? It has very much that vibe where you're just like,
yeah,
I am epic and emo, and
I think the thing is, like Magneto's got one of the iconic comic costumes with his red and purple with the helmet,
which he does get later.
He does go back and retrieve it, and it makes sense that he's not wearing the helmet because the whole reason he was wearing it is because he wanted to keep Charles out of his head.
Yeah,
but
which is interesting.
Yeah, the drastic shift and the like. I'm gonna show some skin now. It felt weird, you know.
He had some odd times to show skin, like
it felt like it didn't fit the character to me, because Magneto's a very serious, like villainous character.
He's also
the Magneto redemption arc is something that's a really cool idea and that has been done in other media before.
This is true.
But the costume just didn't seem at all to fit what was going on. Vibe. It felt weird, and I didn't like it.
It didn't fit the vibe with, Jean Madeline coming in with like pregnant belly, and then he's like shoulders. Like that was a little weird. I think the point of it was like, this is my villain costume, and I'm coming in as a villain, and I'm a bad guy, and I think it was supposed to more invoke a feeling, which it did, but I don't think it invoked the correct feeling, at least from us.
Let us know what you thought about it in the comments below.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting to me about the helmet is that Professor X is a telepath, obviously, but so is Jean, and she has been proven to be more powerful than Professor X is, but he doesn't wear it around Jean.
That's true. I think there's a level of...
They don't have as close a relationship, so there's a bit of distance.
Yeah, like Professor X and Magneto were friends for a long time before they became adversaries.
It's true.
And I think part of the reason Magneto wanted to stay out of his head is because he knew, like, if I give him anything, he's going to know what I'm trying to do.
It's true. I think also he doesn't trust Charles.
Yeah. And the other thing is that Professor X can do that I don't know if Jean Grey can do is he can actually mind control people.
True. I think she can. I just don't think she does, because she also has telekinesis, so she could just like do things.
Yeah.
But Professor X doesn't. He just reads minds. He can't move things, but she could move things, so she doesn't have to make you do it because she could just move the thing. She doesn't need to make you do it. So I don't know. That's for
overall
knows the comics. So overall
episode one was
just hit
very
the ground
good.
Running.
Loved it.
It set the tone really well for everything, and kind of set up all of our characters. Oh, we're back with our friends. Oh, we've got big problems. What is going on? There's a big story happening. We've got the kind of the soap opera drama that X-Men gives us, but just enough of it that it's not too much, but then enough of it that we're like, oh, we have feelings. So it's good. It's good. It's very good.
So very, very good episode.
Episode 1. We were excited to watch them. All right, episode 2 is called, what is it called?
Mutant Liberation Begins.
Mutant Liberation Begins. That is an interesting title.
Yeah.
Why is it called that?
Well, one of the themes in X-Men, and it's not unique to the show, is the oppression of mutants, or at least attempted oppression by humans.
Oh, okay. This is the episode that was kind of like humanity's response to Charles's assassination. Because at this point, humanity believes that he did die.
Yes. So so backing up.
I'm sorry.
The whole series is set like a year after.
Okay.
So there's been a time.
Yeah. Yes. No. I mean that like because Charles was assassinated by not Barla Trask, the other one, Gyrick.
Henry Gyrick.
Henry Gyrick. Because of that, humanity now like is in a position where most, not all of them, obviously, hence episode 1, but humanity has the face of like, oh, we feel bad for you, but like also Magneto is in charge now. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and Magneto's thing has always been mutants need to be free and be separate.
His thing has always been save the mutants, and I don't care about humans.
And he is a pull out. Like he's like, I want to take mutants out because they aren't safe.
Exactly.
And I don't care
and this
what
is
that does to humanity.
Rooted in his childhood in Germany in the 1930s as a Jewish
boy.
Kid,
yeah.
And seeing what happened to his family and his
all of the things
countrymen,
all of the
so he has based on experience, he has fears for what's going to happen to mutants.
It's really interesting then that his mentality then is to separate, because historically speaking, that was the argument that was set forth is, oh, we are removing the Jews from among us to a bad place, so it's interesting that he experiences that and he goes through that, and he then, is now his thing is to do the same thing. And he's like, but I'm going to do it better. And I'm like,
well, it's the other way around. It's we're going to make our own place in this world, not we're going to be put into prison camps.
Well, I know, but it's still the idea of like, not segregation, but kind of like the separation.
I think it's coming from a place of fear that if we don't do this on our own, it's going to happen, but we're not going to be the ones in control of our destiny.
Yeah.
Our fate.
No, I agree. No, I'm not disagree. I'm not saying Magneto is wrong in trying to do that. I'm saying it's an interesting that the response is the same, because the action at its core is to separate, and that's very interesting that is the response of both the fearful and the angry. Whereas Charles is trying to seek
unity,
coexistence, and unity through love and compassion, and understanding, and all of those things. And it's much more of a struggle. Whereas it is easy. This is getting into other ideas in other things. It is easier to leave. It is easier to do the fearful and angry thing.
There are things about it that are easier.
Right. It is a lot harder to stay in the messiness.
And I think
try to figure it out.
The other thing, and this is, it's explored in the series, is leaving doesn't necessarily make you safe from the people that you're trying to leave.
That's true. And that's what I have always thought. Whenever, like, in any of the stories where they're like, oh, we'll separate, I'm like, great, now you're all together and we'll just, like, it's a lot easier for the
Yeah.
bad guys
You're
because now
leaving.
you're right here.
You're leaving because you expect them to kill you, and then you're essentially
Yeah.
putting yourselves in the same place
And it's like,
to be an easy target.
I've watched too many spy shows. Where is the best place to hide in the spy show? In a train station or in a really busy city when you can just hide, you can blend in. And so like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me to like then go be off by yourselves and be like waving your flag. It's like you just put a target on yourself.
Yeah,
so
it's like we're saying we're gonna leave because we don't trust you, so we're gonna trust you to leave us alone.
Leave us alone. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, and part of that is just nobody's reasoning is perfect. Everybody's flawed,
and that's the whole point of X-Men. A lot of times is figuring these things out, and is dealing with these more philosophical debates of like, well, what is the answer then? Because people are dying. Like that's kind of always their deal. So in this one, we're dealing with basically this is like Magneto's put on trial.
Well, yeah. Before it gets there, Magneto is trying to be on a redemption arc.
He's trying so hard.
He understands. I've made mistakes.
It's so good to see.
My best friend, even though we were at odds for a long time, has given me this opportunity for redemption, and I'm going to take it. And so he starts the episode. There's like a montage of him saving both humans and mutants, and not just the X-Men, but all mutants, which has always kind of been his thing. But he's showing up and he's just trying to do good, and then the UN shows up and says, "Hey, dude, you may be trying to do some good things, but you have done a lot of bad things.
You also have committed
and you still have to answer for those crimes." So
it's very good because he says yes.
Yeah, he said yes. That was a highlight, I think, was his approach to that. Because a lot of times when you have someone trying to redeem themselves and they're confronted with their past sins, they double down or they get defensive. And Magneto says,
or be like, that doesn't matter
anymore. I will stand trial if you can promise me it'll be a fair trial.
Yeah, and he is on. It's very good to see him honestly trying to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting because at the same time, a lot of our heroes are more traditional heroes like Cyclops and Madeline and Wolverine and the other X-Men. They are trying to figure out what the right thing is, and they're really struggling with what is the right thing to do. Like Cyclops is having this crisis of faith, kind of like, why would Charles not give me the X-Men? Why would the professor, he never calls him Charles, the professor, not give me the X-Men? Why didn't he trust me? And it's this huge crisis of faith. And, his wife is trying to be a supportive wife, but also a good X-Men, and also like a very pregnant mother. Like, like she's trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. He's trying to figure out what's the right thing to do and what the right thing to feel. Yeah. Because he does not like Magneto. Like he doesn't. But Magneto is continually trying to do the right thing. And I love that like Beast and Aurora are the first to be like, yeah, okay. Let's give you a chance. Let's give you a chance. None of us are perfect. Yeah. And Wolverine's like, I can't really say anything because
you guys gave me the chance he's asking for.
Yeah. I wish Wolverine had said a little bit more. Like I wish he would have had a little bit of.
He wouldn't be Wolverine if he said a little more.
Is true. This is true. So, anyways, so it's really interesting that our typical villain character is trying to do the right thing, and then our heroes and all of humanity are questioning what is right and wrong in this. It's just really interesting. This whole episode is very philosophical and very just like, what is the right thing to do? Is it? And Magneto really makes a really good case. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but he makes a really good case that doing what is right for the most amount of people is the right thing to do. I'm not saying that is the right or wrong thing to do. I'm saying that's the case he makes, and he makes it very well.
His argument is solid.
His argument is it's a very good argument.
Very convincing.
It is very convincing, and he has lots of proofs. He also has the power to keep everyone's attention and to say, or else. Like, because he is powerful enough to cause extinction events for all of the planet. So any argument he makes is a good argument because he can follow through. Like, so that's part
Yeah.
of it.
You have to listen to
You
him.
have to listen to him. And
So that's not that we
yeah.
need to cover some of the other things that happen in the episode
Okay,
too.
yes, we do.
So
But man, the
Magneto's
trial is so good,
he's
and he's got
arrested.
his
He
monologues
has
are
his
great.
trial. In the middle of the trial, Jean
Oh,
goes
yes.
into labor.
She goes into labor,
And
which is
so
intense.
Cyclops, so Wolverine has this montage of getting her to the hospital.
Yes, because Cyclops is not there.
Cyclops and Rogue, I think, does Rogue fly him there, or do they just?
They get her there.
Yeah, they get Cyclops there. The Doctor
They get
refuses to give to
Yeah,
assist with a
with the
mutant
birth.
birth, out of a combination of racism and just fear
And
of
just, well,
her losing control of her powers.
He says fear, but he says it with a very angry face.
Yeah,
so we all know
the
that
way
he's
he's
just
behaving
being a jerk.
it feels like he's making an excuse. So
Yeah, exactly. And then
so
later
Rogue has to absorb his powers and then
which is just
perform the birth.
I forget sometimes that Rogue's touch
I guess
isn't
not powers, his knowledge.
His knowledge, because she just takes it all.
Mhm.
I forget sometimes that Rogue's touch is painful to the other person. And so when the guy starts like, like when she's absorbing his knowledge of being a OBGYN, like she does that, it's like, it feels very justified. Like, like you get your comeuppance right now. Like, here we go.
Yeah, a little bit of instant karma.
Also, I heard someone say, like, why didn't Beast?
It's a fair question. They weren't there. It wasn't Beast at the.
I don't know where he was.
Yeah,
That's why That's why I'm not sure.
We'll have to go back and watch that again.
Because someone was like, "Who was giving her prenatal care?" Wasn't it?
It was Beast.
Would have been Beast.
Yeah.
So why was? Wait a minute. It's a little. Maybe someone can comment on that. Like it's just. It's a little hole. It's a very small plot hole, but it's right
there. So that happens.
Yes.
And they have their baby.
Have their baby. They
boy.
name it Nathan.
Nathan.
And then that's when all the fans go, what's his name?
And then the other thing that happens is during the trial,
yes,
the Friends of Humanity make another appearance. And
more than an appearance?
One of them takes a shot at Magneto.
Well, they don't just show up. They storm the courtroom.
Yeah.
And a fight breaks out.
It's chaos.
It's chaos.
But they create chaos so that one of them can take a shot at Magneto. With a
gun that's made, it's the inhibitor collars made into a gun.
Yeah.
Basically.
So he takes a shot at Magneto, and that shot is intercepted by Storm because she's trying to
she takes the shot.
Keep the team unified.
Yeah.
And she ends up losing her powers.
Which was so sad. When she says, "I can't feel the wind."
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got all teary. I was like, no.
That was a very emotional moment.
Because like she's been like kind of the pillar for those 2 episodes. Like I know Cyclops is in charge, but like if Storm had disagreed with him on anything, he would not be in charge. He's only in charge because she agreed with him and she likes his wife. So yeah, her losing her. There's a lot of validity to that.
Yeah.
The women behind every strong man are even stronger women. So yeah, that was devastating. I was like, oh no. Like
that was rough.
It was
and then
hard.
As Beast is examining her, he can examine her. I don't know why he can help with the birth.
Beast, what are you doing, friend?
Maybe he wasn't allowed to work in the hospital, and they wanted to be in the hospital to be.
I don't know.
Anyway, Beast is examining her, and it looks like
her mutant gene is gone.
Yeah, genetically, she is no longer a mutant.
She's no longer a mutant, human. And it's so and they. Oh man,
she leaves because
the sound design the sound design on that where it gets quiet and everybody's muffled and it's ringing. I'm just like, oh man, oh no,
it was so well done.
Oh no, oh it was it was very good.
She leaves because she can't stand to be around all these memories of who she was, and
I really appreciated that nobody they all wanted her to stay. Which was really
she would have been welcome to stay, still part of the family,
very much so. But it was too painful for her, and that's really really good because I feel like in other situations, she would have been told, well, you're no longer a mutant, so you are no longer welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was not the case.
This is not the same universe, I suppose, but that's what happened in the third X-Men movie.
That's right.
That happened to Mystique when she took the shot for Magneto,
and he's like,
"You're not one of us anymore.
like,
bye."
Oh,
so
oh man, that was really good. Although I don't know if Magneto was in the house at the time when she decides to leave. Was he there because he was still doing the trial thing? It would have been after his trial.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been several weeks since we watched these episodes.
Yeah, so now I'm wondering, like, if
we got to do.
If he was there, would he have been like, yeah, you're doing the right thing by leaving?
I mean, she kind of left. She kind of did the leave a note and sneak out the back door thing. So it's not like she had this goodbye in front of all of them.
It was a voluntary leave, like she chose to, which was, oh man, I think that makes it worse and just so sad.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about highlights for this one along the way. I didn't really have any disappointments with this episode.
This one was so good. This one was so good.
At least from a character and narrative standpoint. Obviously, it's
got things.
It hurts to see a character get hurt.
It hurts so good.
But it hurts so good. Part of and that's part of what makes the high moments so good too.
Yeah, you can't have
peaks without valleys.
You can't. And X-Men is
so
very like up down.
I think seeing Magneto go on that redemption arc, seeing the baby
be born,
the baby, and then just seeing Storm be willing to make that sacrifice. I think those were highlights.
I think also just a really powerful moment in all of those things was Magneto giving his speech about life, really, and about fighting for preserving life and that kind of thing. And as he's speaking, we're flashing to the baby being born, and it's just very good job, good job, storytellers! Like, woo, that was good. All right, we got to keep moving. Episode 3.
Fire Made Flesh.
Okay, remind me about this one.
Oh, we missed. So sorry, we got to back up because we missed the cliffhanger on episode 2. The cliffhanger on episode 1 was Magneto showing up and changing the landscape.
That's right.
Okay. The cliffhanger of episode 2 is the real Jean Grey showing up and changing the landscape of everything. All we know is there's another Jean Grey showing up. We don't know which one is the real one yet.
Okay.
And at the start of episode 3, Beast is like running a DNA comparison. And he's like, wait, she's older. She's older.
Okay, so we have another Jean. We have 2 Jeans, and I don't know if you noticed this, but when in the second episode where Jean shows up, the Jean in the background, who is already there with them, frowns. She's not shocked. She's upset.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, I saw it immediately. She's like, why are you here? Like, she's like mad. Which I'm like, that's not the right response you want to have. Like, that's wrong answer. So, and I know enough about the comics that as soon as I saw her show up, I was like, oh no, it's Madeline. Oh no. And I kind of thought that when they named the baby Nathan, because I remember from the comics that Madeline has Nathan, not Jean. So I wasn't super surprised, but I was also really excited. I was like, oh, okay, we're telling the story now. Like, we're not like, oh, remember when she named him? Like it's not. We're not gonna wait on this. We're doing it now. So I was like really excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so episode 3 is
the
Goblin Queen story.
Yeah. So they make this reveal that the Jean who showed up is the real Jean. Yeah. And very quickly, Mr. Sinister is revealed as the villain here.
That was so creepy.
Yeah. So he's the one who made the copy, the clone.
That's his goal for all of the reasons for life.
And he did it specifically because he wanted to steal DNA from her and Cyclops.
He wanted to make a baby with them.
Super creepy.
Super creepy. He's so Sinister is so creepy, and he's so like good at being so evil and creepy. It is like not even fair. Mm-hmm. Like he's squirmy creepy. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he convinces we'll call her Madeline just to
She's
be clear.
Madeline.
He convinces Madeline to take the baby and run and come back to. I mean, he like mind controls her.
He like mind controls.
Right.
Yeah, she's now under his power, and she takes the baby.
She takes the baby and goes back to his lair.
Okay, this
and the
episode was hard for me.
Yeah,
This
so
was very
the
hard.
X-Men have to go and
save
the baby and figure out what to do.
And well, Cyclops, I love that Cyclops is like, I need to save my son and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows that she's not Jean at this point, and he is still like, but she's still my person. Like, she is still the mother of my child, and I need to go get her. I need to save her. Like, his goal is never to defeat her, it's to save her the whole time, which is beautiful. And just the value of life.
Yeah.
You know, even clone life. I love how much that is a theme in X-Men of just like all life is important and all life matters, which is beautiful and powerful. Okay, moving on. Because then we have in the same, and it's being told in this story with Sinister, who cares about nobody and no life because everyone's an experiment for him. Like, he is an experiment for himself. Like, that's how he is because he's been experimenting on himself. Like, just look. Anyways, so it's just really a beautiful pairing of that. Okay, so
yeah,
we go to a church to save baby Nathan, apparently.
Yeah, so they go. They do save baby Nathan, but he's been infected by a
techno-organic
virus that is. It's making him sick and
made me sick. Like, just that.
And it's beyond their capabilities to fight.
But Bishop, who I forget is there,
who's been there the whole time.
I don't know what he's been doing, but he's there.
Who's from the future.
From the future. He's got time travel tech that Beast was helping him with, and that's why Beast couldn't deliver the baby, because he couldn't apparently take 2 seconds. Anyways, but they fixed it, and so they fixed it just in time to be able to take Nathan to the future to get him help, because he is dying from this techno-organic virus. But the problem is he can't take.
He can only take Nathan.
And so
Madeline,
before he leaves, Madeline puts a memory in baby Nathan so that he remembers her. Yeah. Which is just like, ugh. And can I just say, I was so upset in this episode. As a mom of 4 little babies, my babies, they're not all babies, but my babies, this episode was really hard to watch for me, and was really hard. And I was very upset that Cyclops wasn't there to say goodbye.
Yeah, as a dad, I can't even imagine not wanting to spend every second with your child that you get when you know that you're going to lose them.
Yeah, like, just the stereotype or the thing where the dad gets upset and leaves the room because he's too upset that his kid is sick, or he's so upset about this sad thing that's happening, is just bogus. Yeah. And it needs to stop. And it makes me angry. Because that's not.
It's not what a good dad would do.
Isn't that? And dads out there, if you've done that, or if you're a kid and your dad has done that, like, that's okay. Parents mess up and have feelings, and that those are valid. It's just upsetting that he didn't turn around and do the right thing, because and it's part of his arc, and he does apologize, and later this does come up again, which I'm really glad that they brought it up later. But I'm just saying that in the moment it was very upsetting, and Cyclops is working on a big arc of what is the right thing I need to be doing, because he has a really hard time kind of figuring out what it is he's supposed to be doing and what is the right thing to do.
Yeah,
especially when his emotions get involved.
I think one of the big reasons it was frustrating, disappointing to me, is that he's effectively acting as dad to the whole team, and he's doing a great job. But then when it comes to his own kid, he makes just the worst mistake that he could make in the moment.
Is just not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not being there and just knowing this is your last chance ever to be with your child.
Yes. And I think the reason why he wasn't there is because he was upset with the Madeline Jean thing.
Yeah, and
which is upsetting.
I was gonna get to that.
I'm sorry.
I want to be a little bit sympathetic to him because he's just had his entire world rocked by finding out that his wife, who he's having this baby with, is not the woman that he fell in love with, that he thought she was. All kinds of clone sci-fi shenanigans behind the scenes going on to make that happen.
Dude.
So that's a weird situation that I can't really relate to. But
I'm not a clone.
Good, you better not be. But at the end of the day, like, this is your son. This is your child.
Yeah.
And he's a baby, and knowing in half an hour or however long,
just a minute,
he's going to go to the future forever, and I'm never going to be with him again. Yeah, he does come back later in the series, but it's
as an adult,
as an old man, kind of. But having that, then not having that knowledge in the moment, I can't imagine not just savoring every second you can have with that child.
Yeah. So this episode was really hard. So it was really hard to watch Cyclops be a bad dad at moments. It was really hard to watch Madeline be a bad mom and have this whole Goblin Queen episode while her baby's being put in a vat of goo. Like, oh, it makes me sick thinking about it. Just like, it was. So this was a rough episode. It was really good. It was a really well done episode. I knew it was coming, which was really helpful for me.
The story was good.
The story was good. It was just a hard story.
Yeah.
For us, it was just very difficult as parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so do we have any cliffhangers on that one before we move on to the next episode?
Yeah, so there's kind of like a end of episode scene where Storm is in a bar.
Oh, and she
in Texas, and she meets Forge, who tells her he can help her get her groove back. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that was kind of the vibe. Like he
totally hits on her.
Well, and because he's saying like I can help you get your powers back without saying it, like literally I can help you get your powers back.
No, and she's so excited to see somebody she knows, like that. Like I feel like she didn't really believe him that he could give her her powers back, that she was really lonely, and that he came and found her, and that was really nice. So it was really nice to like end this crazy episode with like a little bit of hope.
Yeah,
because that sucked a lot.
Yeah, and then the other thing that happened at the end was Madeline, she did get rescued.
Oh,
she
and
did
she
get rescued,
leaves.
and then she leaves.
And she gets her, she's unsinisterized, and she helps to save Nathan, and she gives the memory and all that, and then she and Jean have a really sweet moment where she leaves, and it's like, I need to go be me. I need to stop being you, which was excellent because the comics do her dirty. Oh man, she's there. Anyways, so it was that was a very much better send off for Madeline.
Yep.
All right.
So some very like heavy, weighty episodes, and then we get a little bit of a break in the tone with the return of Mojo.
Oh, this one was weird.
Motendo.
And half episode. This was a two-parter.
Yeah, this was like a
2-episode,
a classic '90s cartoon, like 13 minutes and 13 minutes, 2 episodes in one.
Which I liked that.
Yeah,
but also.
In the first half, it's Jubilee's birthday.
It's Jubilee's birthday for reasons.
And girls just want to have fun.
And the mall is the mall because it's the 90s.
So she wants to go and just have a good time and take a break from all the...
Her 90s slang sprinkled throughout is just, I love it. I love it. So good. It's wonderful. And I love that Roberta is just like, you can stop. You're really cute, but you need to stop talking.
Yeah. So Jubilee just wants to take a break and have fun, and Magneto is all serious old man.
You need to do more.
Have fun when you're dead.
Yeah, have fun when you're dead.
And so she and Roberto go to her room to play video games.
They go, yep. That's right.
and they get sucked into the video game. Classic cartoon trope.
Classic cartoon. Okay, so here, question one. This is pre-internet, maybe,
No, the internet was around. It wasn't.
but was it hooked up to video games?
I don't think it was hooked up to consoles yet. I think the first
So how?
console that had
So is
internet.
Motendo just hanging out in Jubilee's console? Because we got vibes of
Well,
like he's casting this around, and lots of people are enjoying Jubilee, and so I'm kind of like, but there's no internet.
well,
I mean, maybe
I mean, he's an alien, so
he
this
can do what he
isn't.
wants. I don't really
They have
know.
different tech, so
I don't know
they get
Mojo
pulled in through the video game.
because I didn't watch the original series. I don't know
Yeah, I
Mojo.
mean, I think he was only in one episode in the
So
original series, and he tried to do a similar thing, not through video games.
also,
I
this really
I don't
reminded me
remember,
of
but
this one arc from Ninjago that my kids really they love Ninjago so much, and there is a whole I think it's a whole season where
where they're
all of the
mhm.
characters are pulled into a video game, and the entire
See,
season takes place
classic
in a video
cartoon
game.
trope.
It is,
Character gets pulled into video game
and
and has to fight their way out.
in case you're wondering,
Phineas and Ferb did
the
it.
Face and Verb did it. They did it. They didn't do it twice. They did it once. I was gonna say I think they did it twice. No, they did it once. But and just so you know, because this is a classic cartoon trope, the solution is teamwork and friendship. It just is every
Mm-hmm.
time, every single time, and it makes us very happy. So okay, so we have Motendo,
Yeah.
where basically Jubilee gets a groove and meets older Jubilee.
Yep. Meets older Jubilee from a
Who's
beta version of the game.
so older Jubilee is not actual Jubilee, but is an AI Jubilee because it learned
Mm-hmm.
and aged.
Yeah, and so they have
Cool.
this like
Okay, so that happens.
meet my mentor who is my
Who
older
is my
self.
older? She has
but
an
not
Elsa
really
moment.
Me.
She has the Elsa in the ice in the glacier moment of, you know,
yeah.
be yourself, show yourself. It's me.
Yeah.
Kind of idea.
But they fight their way out of the video game.
I have to say though, it does give Jubilee the confident boost to be more of a leader, even among the younger group. So it achieves its goal very well, very well.
And then she has a kiss with Roberto.
And a kiss with Roberto. And I'm sure that's all they did in that bedroom by themselves.
Yeah.
Because
we don't need to. Let's keep it PG here.
Oh yes. Of course, we've only talked about assassinations and death. It's fine. Anyways, so that happens, and it's a wonderful romp, and a little bit random, but that's okay.
Yeah, and it was a fun change of pace, a lighter tone.
Yeah, that's true. Mojo is gross, though.
He's gross, and it was kind of weird, but I thought it was fun, and it didn't really ruin the series for me.
No, no, it didn't. It was fine. It was fine. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.
I think if you cut it out of the series, you wouldn't really lose anything, though.
I don't. Yeah.
But it also didn't feel like it was a bad use of time.
No.
I felt like they had enough time to have this and kind of satisfy all of the teases and plot hooks that they put in there.
I feel like this episode was the writers just being like, can we do a Mojo episode real quick? Because like he was really cool, and can we just real fast? Like, you know, they just wanted a fan favorite. Just like
it was fun. It was okay.
It was fine.
Not really complaints, but also didn't.
It helped give a breath of fresh air, which I appreciate because it was paired with Life Death Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to remember the difference between Part 1 and Part 2 because
because
Life Death Part 2 is not a half episode; it's a full 30-minute episode.
It's a full, yeah.
So Life Death Part 1 is Storm with Forge, and he made her chili
on his ranch.
He's being Mr. Romeo. He's very cute. I like it lots.
Yeah, so Forge has this moment where he admits that he invented the technology that the collar inhibitors were based on.
Yeah, he invented the inhibitor tech.
Obviously, this causes a big fight because that's a very touchy topic for Storm
what took her
at the moment.
powers away, and she's kind of like, "How dare you? How
Mm-hmm.
dare you, knowing what
And
happened to
so
me?
storms off, uh, and encounters a owl who turns out to be a demon
a demon,
baddie,
a demon
as
bird.
owls do,
You know,
I guess.
as owls do, be
Um,
demon bears. Demon bears?
so
Not demon bear.
yeah,
A
so
demon owl.
it brings Storm back to the ranch, and
Is it
then
an owl bear?
it's not an owlbear. If it was an owlbear, it would have just eaten her.
Well, it tries to.
But it takes her back to the ranch, and it poisons Forge.
Poisons Forge, and then she feels guilty because now she's brought a demon into his house, and he's like, "How do you know you brought it?"
Yeah, and that's kind of where part one leaves off.
Yeah,
I kind of got the feeling that what happened here is what they wanted to tell with the story of Storm and Forge was not quite enough for 2 episodes,
yeah,
but quite a bit more than they
then
wanted for
one
one
episode,
episode.
and I
So they had
like,
to split it, and then
yeah,
the Motendo thing just kind of worked out to
I
fill the
like
other half of the episode.
that Forge likes her, so I like the little romance. It's very cute. I also appreciate that Storm is like, I don't really need you, but I'll keep you around, because she's the boss. And he knows it, which is great. I also I wish it had been stated a little bit more clearly, because the vibe of life death is what's being told is that he's made mistakes and she's had bad things happen to her, and they're not, but at the and it's brought them to the same like low place,
Mm.
and they have to work together, and it's like they're trying to have like a common ground of like, we're not that different, even though I made the tech that took your powers away. Like, we still have the same internal struggles, even though our external circumstances and life experiences are so radically different. We're actually very, very similar people, and
Mm-hmm.
I really wish that had been stated better, because I think that's what they were going for. And that's reading between the lines a lot of
Mm-hmm.
this part one and part two. And part two kind of explains it a little bit better. Um, because like Storm should have left. Like, like
Yeah,
she shouldn't have
I
even been there.
so
And she only stays because the demon owl bites him and he's now poisoned. So
yeah,
it feels very contrived situations, which is a little disappointing, because we have super interesting characters. Like, Forge is really interesting, and he's really interesting not because of his powers. He's really interesting because of his mistakes and his insecurities and his background. That's what makes him very, very interesting. Storm is really interesting because of her power set, which has now been taken away, and she is exploring, who am I without my powers?
mm-hmm.
Because she got her powers so young, she doesn't actually remember not having
Yeah.
powers. So it's really, and that's very, very clear. It's not very clear what Forge is doing here. And so I think it just, we needed a little less monologues and more dialogues, because they didn't really talk very much. They both kept
Yeah.
monologuing to each other.
So
So all that said,
there's a couple more things I want to touch on
okay,
in the subplot.
okay,
So there's a really interesting, not really philosophy, but maybe thing that they're addressing here, which is uh, once you've invented something and put it out there, you don't necessarily have control over who uses it or how they use it.
this is true.
And I think
Yeah,
we're seeing some of that in real life with the development of AI as it's going on.
which is really interesting,
And
because that's been the case with things like your words, and it's taking,
but with technology specifically,
yes, with technology specifically.
scientists look at like we figuring out how to split the atom with ideas that we can create energy sources, and then it gets turned into a bomb
Yeah.
that
Hello,
causes
Oppenheimer.
untold destruction.
Yeah.
The development of computers changed the world in a way that is largely good, but there's also lots of evil that goes along with it.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, yeah.
so I think they kind of touch on that topic with Forge,
Mm-hmm.
who wasn't necessarily creating this technology to hurt mutants, but
No.
then its immediate application was to hurt mutants.
Mm-hmm.
And having to
And he's
seeing the perspective of the inventor who then has to live with that
yeah.
guilt was really
It's
fascinating.
really fascinating. And I've heard Forge compared to Tony Stark is that like Forge without his mutant powers is just a dude, but with his mutant powers he's basically Tony Stark. And I would be like, okay, except that Tony makes weapons. Forge makes anything. And I don't think Forge and he very like pretty specifically everything he makes after that is not a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a leg, an arm. He tries to fix, he's fixing things to help people. Like that's his goal. Whereas like Tony Stark is making weapons.
Yeah.
He's making suits of armor. Therefore fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
like I he's a good guy, but he wasn't
But
always.
right.
So
And then he
I
makes
think,
Ultron, and it's well, I guess in the comics he didn't make Ultron,
but
but
it's still messy. But like Forge is he's trying to make up for something that he didn't he did, but he didn't do the
he didn't
evil.
intend to do.
No, he didn't do the bad thing. He just made a thing. I think, and that's really, really challenging and hard. And I think that's hard for any like creator who like sees their creation become like much more and larger than life than they ever thought. They're like, this is not at all what I meant at all.
It's one thing to do something that you know is going to have bad consequences and then later feel guilt for that. It's another angle on guilt to do something that you aren't anticipating being used for evil, and then it is.
Yeah.
And just it's like another layer or maybe another level of guilt.
Yeah, it's messy.
So that was really messy.
And
that was really interesting to see, and I think they dealt with it pretty well.
They did do. I think so, and I think the fact that Forge keeps coming up and he keeps being used, and he and Beast work together, and blah blah blah. I think that's really good and helping kind of give him. I like that he's getting kind of a slow redemption arc, and it's a personal redemption. He's not really proving himself to anybody.
No,
he's like Storm has decided to love him anyways. Eventually, she does, but she's. Yeah, so it's really interesting to see him kind of working through his inner demons, who then become outer demons, real life ones. All right, so that's life death. Okay,
for our next episode.
So we'll finish off this podcast with episode 5.
Remember it.
Oh.
Just saying that. So.
All right.
Okay. So this was a tough one. I mentioned at the start that Gambit was my favorite character as a kid, and this one was hard. But I think it was very well done. It was an excellent episode
about
love and it hurt, but it was. I felt like a very earned big character moment. So let's talk about what happened, because we're teasing it a little bit here.
Ooh, the setup and payoff is so good in this.
The start of the episode, there's so going back a little bit. One thing we missed in one of the earlier episodes was Magneto pushed for Genosha to get admittance to the UN.
Oh, that's right. That was kind of like mentioned, like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, so that was kind of like put in there as like a future plot hook, and then it starts to pay off here.
Yeah, here we go. Payoff of
Magneto is saying like, "Hey, there's a nation of mutants that's going to be admitted to the UN. The X-Men is kind of like the face of mutants and like mutant leadership. We need to send some people to help them and make sure that everything is like on track and working out here."
That's good. Yeah.
So the team that they send is Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit.
That's right. And Magneto and Rogue have been flirtatious at the most limited, and possibly more than that. But we're not sure.
To give a little context for that, Rogue can't touch people. If she touches people, she starts absorbing their powers, their knowledge, their health, their life force. So she lives a very lonely life. She can only touch people through gloves. If she makes skin-to-skin contact, very bad things happen to the other person.
Yes.
So Rogue and Gambit have had a long love story.
Very long,
but there's this like tension where they can't express their love to each other physically.
Yeah.
because Gambit will die.
He will die.
Uh,
And she will feel
but
absolutely terrible.
as it turns out, Rogue found out in her past that Magneto's electromagnetism powers block her from absorbing.
He can like make
so
a
they can
force field.
safely touch. So
there's which turned into a little bit of a romantic fling in the past, which is gross.
Because it's a
little icky.
It's a little icky, but I can understand where Rogue's coming from on it because
they're both very lonely people.
Very lonely people. But imagine not being able to touch anyone, and then you find someone that you can hold hands with.
Someone who cares, who has spent a lot of time with you, who cares about you clearly, and like that's huge for her.
All of that is to say, there's a lot of tension between these three, but they're the three that go to Genosha.
Yes. There's also a lot of tension with another three, with Jean and Cyclops and Wolverine, and then on Genosha we see Madeline is there. And so
she showed up to kind of help the mutants.
She's part of the they have like a council of people, and most of the mutants, plus one.
Yeah.
Mutants plus one human. Moira. McTaggart. You know who that is? So there's that, and it's really good to see. It was really refreshing to see Madeline like involved in everything, and she kind of plays it off like, well, they needed an X-Men, you had a spare Jean. And I'm like, spare Jean.
Yeah.
That was a good pun.
Enjoyment. So Genosha asks Magneto to be their leader.
Yes, which the UN are like, excuse me?
He agrees on the condition that Rogue is his right-hand woman.
Queen.
We're
just going to go Queen.
King and Queen.
King and Queen. Of all the mutants.
And that causes some tension between Rogue and Gambit, but Rogue seems to be like, I think I need to do this.
Yeah, and the UN lady is not happy about that.
Yeah.
And Magneto has some great lines in this episode. He has some great lines. We get to see all of Genosha celebrating because
they have
there's a big party.
They have a big party, a gala to celebrate they're joining the UN.
Oh, and when they get there, Rogue and Gambit meet up with our favorite person. Meet up with Nightcrawler.
Yes.
He's my favorite. I love Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the best.
Nightcrawler's cool.
He's super cool.
At least in this continuity, he's Rogue's brother. Or at least half brother.
They're half siblings.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have the same mom.
Same mom.
And so there's a party. There's lots of happiness, lots of celebration. Being the X-Men, they are not allowed to have that for very long because
nothing good ever happens on Genosha.
Yeah. So the Sentinels.
Any continuity.
The Sentinels make an appearance. I guess right before that happens, Cable shows up and
to his mom
makes it to Madeline, not in time.
And you see, it's so sad. You see both of them have a blue glow in their eyes, a blue glint, which is the glow, the same color as Madeline's telepathic power. And it's both of them realizing who each other are. And she's realizing you're my child, and he's realizing you're my mom. And we hear him, and then he starts to time travel because he's apparently looping or something. And he gets to her and tells her he's coming. You've got to run. Get out of here. And then his arm starts to tell him time to leave, and he's like, no. And he says, I'm sorry, Mom. And the voice of him saying, I'm sorry, we remember from her vision that this is who she heard saying, I'm sorry, which we're all like, oh no. And then
as he disappears, the Sentinels start
descending and blowing everything
up. And these are giant super Sentinels. I don't know exactly what the term was. There's a master mold that shows up.
It's like a bug.
Yeah.
It's like a giant insect with big master mold heads.
And so they start just destroying mutants, which is what they're created to do.
Obliterating all of the mutants. And there's a big fight.
Yeah, so Rogue and Magneto and Gambit start trying to help people and save as many as they can.
Butt is what they start
doing. They're doing really well, but they just eventually get overwhelmed. And Gambit goes on a Gambit.
Well, first of all,
to
yes, he does. Very good. Very good. Sorry,
to
I missed that. Well, first he Magneto is protecting anyone and everyone he
mhm,
can. And they're trying to get the Morlocks, who are, kind of the second class citizens, even among mutants.
mhm.
They're trying to get to them. They successfully get to them and are trying to get them out. There's a safe spot, and Nightcrawler's bamfing people left and right, trying to get everybody to safety. And we think Magneto is hurt or something. Rogue gets mad, and she goes straight for the Sentinel, and Gambit hits her with a motorcycle
Yeah.
hits her with a motorcycle to get her out of the way. She's fine, relatively speaking, and to get her out of the way, and then
And then
he runs at the
so
Sentinel
he's like
instead
climbing up this giant sentinel,
with his stick spinning
trying
and
to
glowing. He's gonna
trying to get to it so you can destroy it,
and
and he gets
he gets impaled.
impaled, stabbed like through the side, and
You know,
it picks him up in
picks
like
him up
a
and says,
taunting
"Mutant."
gesture, kind of,
Yeah, and he says,
and he
"The name's
says,
Gambit. Remember
"Remember it."
it."
And as he says that, he starts charging up
The
the
entire
entire master mold
huge
machine
machine and blows
and
it up,
blows it up.
which is
So
just amazing.
it was such an oh,
It was
it's
so
so hard. I feel so conflicted about it
like
because
that was so hard. And then Rogue got upset because she and Gambit were held back by Magneto, who was trying to protect sweet little Leech,
yeah,
sweet little Leech, and the Morlocks, and he was trying to protect them. And he looks into Leech's eyes and tells him, "Do not be afraid." In German, we don't know if Leech speaks German, but he says it to him. And then the blast of the Sentinel just overtakes them, and
mm,
that's when Rogue gets really upset for obvious reasons.
yeah,
So that's the series of events. Is we see Magneto have this really tender moment with little baby Leech, and then his name is Leech. He isn't a Leech, but anyways, this little kid, and he has this tender moment, and then gets blasted. Rogue freaks out. Gambit saves her, and then makes the sacrificial play.
mm-hmm.
And we end the episode with
With
kind of the dust settling, and Rogue is sitting in the
the
pile of the
crater.
crater that was the Sentinel or Master Mold thing, and she's holding Gambit, finally able to touch him, and says, "I can't feel you." And
Yeah.
it goes to black, and both of us were just
Oh,
like, "Oh no,
yeah,
oh no." So, and that's halfway through the season.
yeah,
So a lot happens in this.
yeah.
We are going to take
So we got to talk highlights and disappointments.
of the first half.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just talking
So
first half because we're halfway
and
through.
yeah,
And we got a lot to cover still. So, first half, highlights and lowlights. I think we've already established that the Motendo life death episode was rough for us because it was
yeah.
kind of like, why are we doing this? But also, this like it was fun and it was fine. We enjoyed our characters
It
doing
felt like a
character
good,
things.
fun X-Men story put in the
Middle of
of
chaos.
put in the middle of like a very serious, heavy story.
Yeah.
That if you were
Yeah.
expecting that to continue into episode 4, I think that could have been a very disappointing
I think
episode.
so. I think
I think it was
X-Men.
okay because we'd had like 3 like increasingly heavy moments at the end
Yeah,
of episodes back to back,
it
and then
was
this one was
timed very well.
kind of a.
It was timed very well. If it had happened in any other
I mean,
spot, it would have felt
and
weird.
you think about the first 5 episodes as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have that kind of light moment, like you don't have a chance to breathe in those 5
No.
episodes.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was well timed, and it was definitely kind
It
of
was
like
kind of a calm before the storm
you were,
episode in the middle of the storm.
Yeah, right. So that, which was good, and I appreciated. I think overall, for the sake of the whole thing as an arc, it's really good. I think it's still not my favorite episode because it was only 2 people at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an X-Men show. We're here for the whole group. Um,
Mm-hmm. We talked about ensembles in our first episode,
we
and
did.
X-Men
We
is
did.
like one of
X-Men is a
the
classic
best
ensemble
examples
story.
of an ensemble.
And but sometimes
cast.
in ensemble stories you go off with somebody to develop their character more, and that's what this was, and
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. It's probably was the low point for us, other than the bad moments in the Goblin Queen episode and episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 3 and 4 were kind of the lowest ones for us for different reasons. For the subject matter of episode 3 was just rough on us as parents.
Yeah.
And the, not the tone, but like the way that episode 4 felt a little not disjointed, but it was just not part of the overarching story. And it was a breath of fresh air, definitely needed to keep kind of our spirits up a little bit because rough seas ahead. So it was fine. It wasn't a bad episode. They were perfectly fine episodes. They weren't our favorites. And I think my favorites, I don't have a favorite episode. I just have favorite moments from episode. I really just like the energy of episode 1 and just that it hits with a bang, and it's like it takes the energy of that opening of the opening credits and that music and just chugs along for the whole first episode. Is like, all right, here's our beat, go for it. I loved in episode 2 all of Magneto. Just he had so many good lines and monologues, and just like it was real good, real good. And then episode 5 is just so packed. It's just so packed. We've got, I mean, we didn't even talk about it, but like Jean kisses Wolverine, and he's like, no, like, do not do that. Like, and we know that he loves her, and he is just like, no, you need to go make up with your husband. Do not be doing this. And it's like, so they're having a whole thing, and then Genosha happens, and just like, it is a packed episode. So like, it's hard to pick that one as a favorite because it's just got so much going on, which a lot of these episodes have so much going on.
I'll pick that one as my favorite.
He's your favorite because it's got Gambit moments.
Ugh. It was like the culmination of the character for Gambit, and
every time a character in this season has a moment, has a peak of like awesomeness, something really bad happens to them, and it makes me nervous now that I've seen the pattern. I'm like, oh no, don't do anything good.
Yeah,
because then you're gonna die.
But he got to have just this peak heroic moment, which
was wonderful.
If you don't know, Gambit's a character who comes from a criminal background, basically.
He comes from the streets.
So seeing like that kind of fulfillment of his redemption and his
to be a hero.
Yeah, becoming a hero instead of just kind of the side man.
Yeah. Was really, really good.
Really good. And yeah, just that line, remember it.
So good. So so that's the first half of X-Men 97 season 1. We apparently are going to be doing 2 episodes of this podcast covering this because boy howdy, we've got a lot to cover.
There's no way we can squeeze in the other 5 episodes
so much that's
before
still
bedtime here.
We haven't even mentioned who the big bad guy is yet.
Like, we haven't even seen on screen who the big bad guy is
yet. We don't know yet. To just finish us off, let's have what I sprung on you last week, which I'm sure I don't know if you thought about it, but our just kind of moment of story from the week. You got anything?
It's hard because we didn't get to the end, and I think one of my story moments was just the ending of season 1 for this.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. We'll talk about
next
that
time we talk about it.
Yeah. That was going to be mine. So I think some other story moments
from the week.
Yeah, I have been catching up on Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, okay.
Which is not my favorite Star Trek series, but it's a Star Trek series. So hey, I got the mug. I got the mug.
He be watching it.
I like it.
All the Star Trek content.
And I think it's kind of come into its own over the last 2 seasons of it. But they're coming up. I don't know how many episodes are going to be in this season, but it is the last season, and they're coming up to at least the end of the story they've been telling in this season. So, and it's had some really cool moments. I don't want to give any spoilers on it, but if you didn't like the beginning of Star Trek Discovery because it didn't feel like other Star Trek shows, I would recommend giving it another try.
So you've warmed up to it a bit.
Yeah.
Cool. I have picked up a book that I'm reading, and I don't know if I can recommend it yet because of content. It's just not. There's nothing like bad in the book necessarily. It's just not content that I generally am like, read this, it's great. Anyways, it's just a personal preference thing. But I'm reading it, but it's making me realize just how much I appreciate side characters
Hmm.
and how much I love side characters. And most of the time, not most of the time, a lot of the times, I like the side character more than the main character. And I don't know if this is just me or if other people are like this. And X-Men is kind of bringing this out to me. Like, my favorite character is not any of the main characters. My favorite is Nightcrawler. And then I found out that there is a Nightcrawler like comic series of just him, and I was like, I do not want to read that because that makes him wildly less interesting to me. Because I feel like, anyways, it's just kind of this new thing I've been thinking about of how I like side characters because they are more interesting to me. The main character, I'm like, oh, I have to spend time with this person, but the side characters, I'm like, no, I want to spend more time with you. Come back. And I think it's that, just like the piecemealness of side characters. You're not in their head, so you don't know everything. So you're like continually
They
learning
leave
things
you
about
wanting
them,
more.
leave you wanting more. It's very good. So yeah, the book I'm reading is also, it's got kind of a time travel vibe to it. Not exact. It's only time travel because we're jumping in different times in this person's life, and so it's like all these moments with these different people, and then she doesn't go back to them, and I'm like, wait, no, wait, come back, I want to know more about that person. So it's interesting. So it's kind of giving me a little epiphany about myself and how I love a good side character.
Cool.
So
Well, if you made it this far in the episode, thank you for hanging out with
I
us and
know this has
watching.
been a long one.
Uh, if you're not subscribed to the channel, click that
Yay.
subscribe button and give our podcast a like. If you
Hello,
made it
baby
this
channel.
far, hopefully you enjoyed what we had to say, and hopefully you enjoyed the X-Men series. We certainly did.
Comment down below, what's your favorite episode of the
Yeah,
first 5?
yeah.
What's your least favorite episode of the first
What's your
5?
favorite? What's your least favorite?
Who's your favorite character? Who's your
What's your
favorite?
favorite moment?
Yes. Is there any one-liners? Also, I didn't mention this before, but all of Beast's lines, all of his puns and references are just like, they make me so happy every
Beast
time
is great.
he's the best. All right.
All right.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.